call and things like that. So, hey everybody, glad you could join us. And this is our weekly worker proposal and URI call. And Orchid's the one usually hosting this, but she's in London, and so I'm just kind of taking her place. And so I just thought it'd be good to just discuss URI like for this whole session, and because we didn't really get to discuss too much last week. So yeah, I'm glad to have Anna, who's really great in the URI channel. She provided a lot of links on the URI channel that are great resources to learn about URI. But she'll be kind of hosting this show here. And yeah, welcome, Anna. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I can't take all the credit for that. I was part of a group that put that together, and I just helped them organize and invite people that would help them organize, and have just kind of been cheerleading and being supportive. So I don't want to take all the credit for that. The credit is due to Anita, who's in there, and to Jack, who spawned the idea. And Jack brought me on, and Anita did a lot of the legwork, and Jack did a lot of the legwork of copying the conversations and putting them into the doc. And I just helped them organize and help along the way. So don't want to take the credit on that. But basically, the point behind the group was a lot of people had questions about UBI at the time, and Dan went into explaining that it is URI, and it's completely different than UBI. And you probably heard this before, that it's the best explanation that I've heard and that I repeat a lot is it's not basic and it's not income. So that's what makes it a little different. The resources in the long scheme would be resources. You would hope that they'd be resources that can be applied to ownership, to things in the real world, and that we live and interact in. But the smaller idea of is to try to create a use case on EOS with the resources that EOS can provide as the resource inheritance, and see how that can change the paradigm within EOS, and then if that could be a great use case for countries to maybe try the same thing. Dan has written 2 articles about this, the initial URI explanation, and then another deeper kind of response after hearing some feedback about the URI idea. And within that, we're able to see that he is hoping that we can set an example by using some math that he's done to overturn the distribution of wealth by 99.5% over 100 years, and to create opportunities for people that may have been born into, in a line of inheritance. Thanks, June. There's a link right now if you haven't joined the Telegram group in the chat. EOS_URI. The idea is to change the rules of Monopoly. So if we're already playing Monopoly, the 5% taxation that we have on things in the real world are already applied, if not more, and on other blockchains, if not more. And to change where the 5% goes is the idea, instead of it going to one central place in which you don't necessarily always have the say of where that is going. Like, yes, you have government programs, and you have like child support and things like that. But if you were able to decide where that went, or even change the whole rule and just say, hey, how about we just give it to everybody and see what people do when they're not so stressed about trying to figure out how to make money just to get by, when they're liberated and able to have a more space in their head to maybe tap into what their passions are and what they're creative about, and maybe create more things like, electric motors like Tesla, to have the freedom that money can bring sometimes. And so it's not going to be enough money to like change people's whole world, but it could be enough money to change people's perspective on their place in the world. So I'm not an expert in URI. I'm just been around and been studying it and trying to talk about it and get people into it. And so I'm really excited to hear what people's concerns are. And I kind of wish this is where more people could talk because I hate to be the gatekeeper of the flow of conversation. But if anyone has any questions, I guess you can ask a question at the bottom if that works for you, or you can go into the chat and ask a question, and we'll try to go down the line. And I'm hoping Katie will jump in, or anyone else from URI that wants to jump in, because obviously we're not going to have all the answers to this, but if we can get out what our concerns are and where we would like the conversation to go, then we can definitely take that back to our Telegram group and pose those questions and then go back and forth. And I invite you to come join that conversation because it's fun. So, Katie, Dan is the best expert on this, full disclosure. So Katie Ruman is asking, I think she'll join us soon. Children could collect, or she is stating, children could collect URI and be independent at an earlier age. And that's inspired. And yeah, so the idea behind it in a real world case would be if you were born into a situation where you're not inheriting anything, or you're in a country where you can't actually get something because of a thumb that holds you down, or a government that is trying to keep a wrangle on the situation, then the idea of URI applied worldwide would be a situation to where those people could be liberated and freed, even if it's like a couple $100. You know, doing the math, I encourage you to jump into EOS Math Telegram group, because the guys in there are doing the math on the possibilities and going back and forth on the results. But even if it's a couple $100 to someone, say like a tribe in Africa, and I know we use that example a lot, but we are trying to help people. If they had $300 a month extra, that would completely change their world, right? It's the same situation of if you're born into a family that's not inheriting anything, and you're constantly living paycheck by paycheck, and it's a scarce mentality that is kind of handed down to you because of what you were born into. And some people don't break that, and they continue to collect welfare or be in that mindset. To be able to free them and see what they're really made of when they're not so worried about just existing. So that's kind of the bigger idea, and the smaller idea is to get people to volunteer to want to try this on the EOS, to be using the EOS as their resource inheritance. In different situations where you can earn money with your EOS would be ideas like Rex or Chintai. And with URI, if you want to donate back your URI to someone else, or if you are a wealthy person that doesn't have a need for URI and you donate that, there's been talk of a certain, you know, what we say like a tax write-off in the real world to when you donate to a nonprofit. When that kind of idea is in place for people, that you notice a lot more people donate. So that's just some of the things Dan has mentioned about if everybody has kids in the chat, I do too. That's the kind of idea that I'm sorry, I lost track of that, but the idea is that we want to try to see how it works on EOS, and if we can use it as an example, maybe we can liberate some countries or people that are under government control that want to be liberated without causing a revolt. So, and history has shown every fourth generation a revolt or something happens because the money is taken to the select few and not distributed. If we could stop that before the revolt is like the last option. Like, I don't know, I'm hungry. Like, there's no food left. They took our money. Let's go get them. We don't want that. We don't want that at all. Like, let's change history, you know? So that's the idea. Let me go through what some of the questions are. And we have, Elam, did I pronounce that wrong? I'm so sorry if I did, because I know you and I've met you. I'm so sorry. And we're going camping together, so I apologize. From EOS Nation, Anna, how do you propose this being implemented a worldwide basis? What do you think is Dan's vision for this idea in general? Um, to speak on Dan's behalf is not is not my job or my goal, but from what I read, what I think is being implemented worldwide, I think the best way to implement it worldwide would be to have an example of it working. And I think that's why he's talking about using EOS with the resources that we are given and distributing, like the game of Monopoly he had mentioned, giving 1% to the person to your right means everybody plays forever and nobody is a loser. I think if we were able to implement that idea with people that want to volunteer and try it out on EOS and it works, it would be the use case to show the numbers and how it turned out to countries that may be desperate for things, countries like Venezuela and other countries like Puerto Rico that just don't know what to do now, but they want their freedom back and they want to feel like their home back. They want to feel back to where they were before. It can be harder in those places. So I think use cases would help countries think of the possibilities of doing this, because it's a completely new idea. It sounds a lot like UBI, but it's not, because we're not just giving income to people. We're just redistributing what resources we have. So whether in the real world basis, that includes people talking about actual property, land, and resources. That's a really awesome idea. And I know that Eco Warrior is trying to get everyone to think about how that could be implemented, because he is a part of renewable energy initiatives, and that's a big concern for them. And that would be really interesting. I do not have the answers to how that would play out. And maybe if we read more between the lines, we might be able to get an idea for what Dan had in mind on that. What do you think Dan's vision for this idea in general? I think that he sees a pattern of central control keeping being so disjointed from the people it affects. So I think that when he sees the numbers, and he's running the numbers, and he sees that this percentage is making the wealthy wealthier and the poor poorer, and we're losing our middle income bracket, that's getting smaller and smaller. I think that for him, because he is about life, liberty, and property, this probably sparks a heartstring for him, thinking about his children. And I know that he's not necessarily in the bracket of the lower income, but I think he still feels for the lower income, and he's trying to think out ways that we can change subtle things and how it works without like completely changing the whole thing and getting everyone upset is my idea. I think that he's just trying to think about how we can change the way the world works. Like I had mentioned before, the central banking system, the Fed, the Federal Reserve is privately owned, and they've never been audited. Like, that's nuts, right? That's our money, right? That's your hardworking money. That's your percent going to that. I'm not trying to revolt and do anything like that, but we need to think about what's really going on and how it's affecting the world. Like, a very large percent of America is on welfare, and to be able to change maybe that paradigm and see what people are really made of outside of feeling desperate, I think that that's inspiring. And then also from June, we can add people on video chat if they want to ask questions on video and audio. And then Elam said yes. He said he might. He'll jump on in a minute. And then we're inviting Ed, if he wants to get on, since he has a startup doing UBI. That would be fun. I think my main goal for this conversation, and I really do wish that we could, we have a question, but we could get into it back and forth, not necessarily at each other, but to just free flow our thoughts, is what are the main concerns of URI? Like, what is like, but this makes me feel weird and I don't know, and but this could happen, and to write those down, and so we can try to figure them out together. So let's look at I'm sorry, I'm talking so fast. I've been doing video interviews since 12 p.m. and I'm really sorry if I'm like hyped up right now. Ask a question. Let's see what's being asked. So Katie Roman asks, what do you think of Dan's latest suggestion to use a worker proposal system for URI? So, and Katie added, the one I heard is it's less targeted for development than UPS, or UPS, worker proposal system, WPS. That's the critique that she has heard. That's interesting because he had mentioned that he thinks that both are beneficial. And he had also mentioned at one point that, and forgive me if I'm repeating myself, he had also mentioned at one point that one of the reasons that he had left BitShares was because of the holdup in the worker proposal system. The inflation scared people that had a lot of stake in there, and they, in the middle of that conversation, they had decided to not fund devs on BitShares. And Dan being a dev, that was probably very hurtful for him because the whole point is to develop. So I think that's one of the concerns with the worker proposal system that he has, is he hopes that it doesn't get, it doesn't create a bottleneck for creation. Also, with the worker proposal system, for me personally, I was excited about worker proposal system. I was thinking, oh, wow, now people can submit proposals to actually get paid to do good works for EOS. Like, wow, that's really cool. Instead of having to go for an interview and go move there or whatever, you can actually do what you're good at and say, hey, like for me, I do digital marketing PR. Like, hey, can I submit a proposal that I do this kind of digital marketing PR for this many months? And when these milestones are hit, I get a percentage of the total fee of what I'm asking for. And then over time, I'm actually doing good PR press work for or marketing for EOS. Like, to me, that was like, oh, this is liberating. People can have jobs from the community. And then at the same time, when I heard how much money was going into it, I get so freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like honey in the middle of the forest and the bears like can sniff it out, right? So I think that was a concern for me, was what kind of people is that going to attract? And within that, you know, people that are there for money, they're very good at putting on a facade and playing 48, you know, laws of power. So that's something that really concerned me. So I remember when the first Telegram group started, I jumped in there and was trying to figure out how I could be a part. And then I realized that it was really far away from being implemented, and a lot of things need to be thought out. And I felt like the deep thinkers were in there. And it has turned over a few times on who has been involved, but there's a main crew that's still involved. And Dan said that the worker proposal system is a good idea. So I think that the combination of the two is good, as long as it's not corrupted. And how can it be corrupted? Let's think about this. If somebody that is a part of the worker proposal system also has backdoor deals with a block producer or a whale that has a lot of money, and maybe that whale has already shown that they are not really a good person, and by, you know, how they've treated other people or whatever, that whale could essentially rule what proposals get passed by their stake. Or many whales could clamor together and decide that, hey, let's just hang out and let's hear all the good ideas, and then not pass them, but then copy those ideas and have our devs in-house do it. So then we can create it and get that money, or we can send it to our brother to get the money. So because it is a vote, one vote, one EOS situation, the more stake you have, the more pull you have. There is concern that I could put in a proposal, but because people don't, or some people don't like me, and they don't, you know, she asks me questions or whatever. I don't like her. She's always whatever. It could be a really great proposal, and it could be really good for EOS, and it could be very much needed, but they could collude together, not saying the people in the worker proposal system, but the whales devoted in could collude together and decide, we don't want her to have this. We want my daughter to have it instead. So they could just take what I have, make sure I'm not voted through, repeat it in a different way, and then push through their relatives. So I think that that's the main concern of, you know, possible corruption. And so I'd be interested in, and I know that the worker proposal system, workers have already thought of that, and they're working that out within their proposals to try to keep that from happening. But we've already seen what's happening with voting. So it is a concern that, you know, I've explained that I feel like Jonah, Jonah and the whale, right? And in many instances, a lot of BPs probably feel like just swallowed up by whales, especially with seeing so many that are collecting, not whales, but seeing so many BPs that have not followed the Reg Producer Agreement, and even some that have claims against them in ECAV that continue to collect money on from the mainnet. And there's no real way to get rid of them or anything like that. So since we see that already happening, it's a very good sign that that is soon to come when there's more money at stake. Sorry if I'm talking too much. Feel alone here. Anyone want to join? Next question, I guess. Okay. Elam from EOS Nation. Do you think UBI also has something to do with encouraging voter participation? Ah, good question. If, for instance, you only get UBI if you're a staked voter. That's awesome. I love that idea. Many people in the URI group have talked about how this could be the key to mass adoption, so, or to more users coming in. And it really is like a really good like carrot dangling for people that could use that. And I do think that it is. I do think that it's a an onboarding process in which people would jump through hoops to get into. And I don't know, I think that it is a good way to get people involved, especially getting them onto, if they're not in blockchain, it's a really great way to get them into blockchain technology. And it's a really great way to expand the accounts and users that we have on EOS. At the same time, people may be concerned about the value of EOS going down. And I think that it was talked about that the value of EOS would actually go up because there's only a certain amount, and people will be using those, using their stakes in things like Chintai and Brex. And because of the limited supply, that it would create the value of it to go way up in the long run. Anybody? Let's see. Kitty Roman. Basically what we see with BP voting, but worse. Yeah. If like, you know, if you haven't noticed, go check who's listed on who's voting for who. And that's who you find out who's friends with who or whatnot, or who believes in who. And when you see some of the same names of BPs that you've never heard before, aha, what is that? What is that? It's not vote buying. But technically under the amendment, or under the Constitution that has not been ratified yet, but we're supposed to uphold, it is violating that amendment, because it's a vote trade in which you are getting something out of offering a vote for someone else. So it is against the Constitution right now. The biggest thing is that people can't prove it. So that's what you have, is that, yeah, but prove it. Prove that we're doing that. Prove that that's happening. And I challenge people that love blockchain and love to dissect data to prove it. I do it. That'll be fun, because it's on blockchain. It's all transparent. Everybody can see what's going on. My suggestion, and yeah, I might get in trouble for this, but you know, it's blockchain. It's transparent. If you get into blockchain, realize your power. It's peer-to-peer, it's transparent, it's immutable. You can't go back and change it. And then, you know, don't necessarily go burn people at the stake, but ask them why. That's it. You don't have to, you know, hang people or anything like that. That's not what we're about. We're about nonviolence, but we can also hold people accountable or ask them specifically, like, well, why are you voting for this person? We've never heard of them, and they don't even have who owns their BP. They don't have their JSON file. They don't have this. So why are you voting for them? And then why are they voting for you? Like, do you know each other? If you do, can you tell me who they are? Because no one else knows. And those questions are good, because you get in a situation where you're put in something and you go along with the flow. And sometimes you have to be held accountable by the community to ask yourself the hard questions, and in which we'll get better results, or, you know, just whatever, wait for ECAF to do something, or something else. I don't know. We have no teeth. We have no enforcement. So it's really sad. Nobody likes what's going on. It's kind of depressing. I personally have cried myself to sleep over it at times. But I know that we have to just keep going, because there's a lot of developers that are waiting for us to figure out governance so they can just build stuff. And they're going to build stuff anyways, but they'd rather just this be wrapped up and it be real simple and to be airtight, as Eugene would say. So there's no room for discrepancies, and there's no going back and forth. Can we just get over the governance part? Self-governed chain is awesome. It's really cool. It's different. We'd like to lead the way and the best constitution out on blockchain. That would be really cool to be known for that. But right now we're trying to figure out what is the best constitution. So meanwhile, devs are wondering what's going to happen, what's the responsibility or to them, and hopefully they just keep building stuff, because it's taking a little bit to figure that out. So let's go on to more questions. This is June's question. There was a poll about what people wanted. 1, burn inflation tokens. 2, URI. 3, worker proposal system. Or 4, URI plus worker proposal system. And according to that poll, it's a poll that goes through all of the Telegram channels. I'd be interested to know how many have participated so far, but according to that poll, it seems like 60% or more wanted URI. What do you think are the best reasons for the strong support? So anybody want to chime in on what they think the best reasons are? I think that it's new, it's different, and despite what some people may say, Dan has a large following, and they came here. They came to EOS specifically because this was Dan's next project. I think that a lot of people, as you can see, as soon as he jumps in any of the Telegram groups, everybody floods into that group to ask him questions. He is quite popular, and people are here to figure out what his vision is and try to help him build it, because they want to be a part of the next best thing or bigger thing. So I think that I think some of the reasons could just be specifically because they're here to see what Dan wants to build and they want to support that. And then they also want to see what happens when we try the experiment, as well as why not? Let's try it. You know, like, why not? Let's try it. It'll bring more people in. It could raise the value of the token overall. And I think those are some of the reasons. But I'm not an expert on this, so please chime in. Let's see. So June's asking Ed some questions that we will, when he answers those questions, we will we'll give you the question and the answer. Ed's trying to join the call, I think. Yay! And Ed had a question. Want to learn the news. Oh, awesome. Of our base. Ed, I think I've talked to you. I think you've reached out to me on Telegram. On Bonnum, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, with their basic income experiment in Venezuela. Awesome. We would love for Ed Rodriguez, if he can, join the call. Oh, he's here. Let's see if we can get him. I don't know how to work this thing, June, but if we can get him on, down for it. Hey, Ed.
Hey, hello. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks.
All right. Is it you that you reached out to me on Telegram?
Yes.
For EOS Tribe? Okay, cool. Nice to meet you.
The same.
Thank
well,
you.
I'm very excited to share the news with you about Bonnum. You know, my team and we are from Brazil, from Recife, Brazil. And we decided to work on a possible solution to distribute the URI to the most number of people as possible. You know, how to democratize the access of EOS accounts for the URI to be able to reach the poorest people in the world. You know, the people who need it the most and which the URI could make the most difference. So we decided to start in Venezuela because I'm from Brazil and we're experiencing a mass migration from Venezuela to Brazil and other Latin American countries because of the situation there, you know. So my team and we developed the EOS wallet, which is
wait, Ed, can you explain this? Can you explain the situation in Venezuela so everyone can understand what you're describing, trying to help?
Sure. So in Venezuela, they are living under a dictatorship, you know, from the Maduro's government, which wreak havoc in the economy. And it's been like their currency was massively devaluated. So the minimum salary today is like $2 per month. And it's very hard even to find food to eat. So people migrated to other countries. Like 10% of the population already migrated to other countries. It's like the biggest humanitarian crisis in Latin America, I think ever. You know? Yeah. So, but technology can be the solution for that, right? And it's the perfect, it's the perfect ground for we to try the blockchain technology as a solution, both for we to deliver aid directly to Venezuela, and also for the Venezuelans to have an alternative currency, you know. So,
awesome.
So in partnership with the guys at EOS Venezuela, we selected a few families and we are transferring $1 per day in EOS to them. So that's how the money gets in. But the way they spend the money is that they can either exchange for bolivars, which is their currency, or purchase goods from a local store, you see? And for the people who doesn't have a smartphone, we developed this paper wallet, which contains the public keys and private keys of his EOS account. So it can be available even for people who doesn't have a smartphone. And some good news, which I can share with you in first hand, is that we are building a partnership with Give Crypto, you know, Coinbase's charity. You know
Yes,
Coinbase?
yes, good. Yes. I was
So they are
nodding,
going
but
to
yes.
finance. They are going to finance 20 families for now for a trial and maybe scale to 100. You know, so
Oh,
that's pretty cool.
awesome. That's
Mhm.
really awesome.
Yeah, so I hope this can be a test of how life-changing it can be to receive a URI. You know, maybe it will convince people that you know there might be a little bit inflation, there might be a little, but like the world is going to be much better. You know, and EOS is going to become the de facto currency in many places. So it's worth it, right?
Yes. Yeah, I agree. That's a perfect use case. Is it, anybody have any questions for Ed while he's here? Let's see what questions we have. Okay, so what everyone's congratulating you. Can you see the chat?
Yes.
uh,
Ellen has a question.
yes. Let's see. Do you see the question? How do the paper
Yeah.
wallet holders spend this income?
So in the wallet, the actual wallet in the smartphone, there is like a anonymous mode in which people can sign in if it's not their phone, and they can log into other people's phones or in the merchant's phone. So they can use someone else's phone, not their own, but they have full control of their finances through the paper wallet.
I have a question. Have y'all thought about laminating them? Is that a dumb question? Like a protective barrier to protect it against water damage?
Oh, well, it's because we thought of making the process the easiest way possible in the last mile. You know, so for
Okay.
example,
Yeah.
for the guy in Argentina, in Venezuela, only needs to print the paper wallet. But to think of a more durable way to keep the wallet, it's a good idea. Perhaps we will try to think of a different thing, like, for example, a card, a plastic card, right? Uh, we can think of different instruments. But that's a good
Can
idea.
I
Thank you.
can I ask you one more question? Have y'all thought
Mhm.
about how to prevent fraud or people stealing other people's paper wallets?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. First, we are going to use two pins when people log in other people's phones. You know, so if they lose their wallet, the guy who finds it, it will still need to put two pins to be able to use it. And also,
Okay.
uh-huh. We will print the main keys. These are the active keys. You know, we will print the main keys in a separate piece of paper, and the wallet owner is supposed to keep them at home, and they can reset the active keys through the main keys.
Okay. Cool. That's really cool. And Elon has some questions. Uh, don't they need stores that accept it?
Yes,
Like merchants to accept it?
yes, they do. They do need merchants, and that's something that we are working, you know, to get more people to accept EOS, especially in partnership with EOS Venezuela. They have a great plan to build like a tool with a map of all the merchants who accept EOS as payments.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, and someone asked here about the unique, how to uniquely identify the individual so people won't abuse the system? That's a great question. We actually thought about creating a device that will take the biometrics of each individual and associate it with their user account. But this is more down the road, you know. We are actually waiting and looking forward to hear what is Dan's solution. He said that he has an amazing solution that he he's surprised that nobody thought about it, how simple it is.
Yeah.
So we're what is the solution, right? So we either may use dense solution or we'll build our own device down the road.
That's awesome. Let's see. There's some more questions. Elam is suggesting that we should get merchant adoption before we try URI. That's a good suggestion. Did you know that there's actually EOS? There's actually EOS taxis in London that take EOS. It's slowly happening randomly around the world. It's pretty cool. And then I believe it was Robert Russell said, "Are there any Bitcoin ATMs there in Venezuela?"
In Venezuela, I think not, because the government is really against other cryptocurrencies than the shitty currency that they created, So not in Venezuela, but here in Brazil there are some, and in Argentina as well. I heard there are some.
And then Russell went on to say, "And if not, let's make that happen, EOS." So if not, if there's no Bitcoin, let's try to be the first ATMs for cryptocurrency in Venezuela. I think this is interesting because go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ed.
To purchase EU in an ATM, the person would need a credit card, right? And I think we should focus on the adoption of the people who are not financially included, the unbanked, the people who lives in a hyperinflation nation, or who doesn't have the current financial infrastructure. I think our user adoption will grow exponentially if we are able to serve those people. So that's my opinion.
That's cool. I have a question outside that. So are you in a situation to where you have to approach merchants one-on-one and they kind of secretly agree to take EOS for things in their stores? Is it something that has to be kind of underground right now because of the government?
Well, yes. In Venezuela, they arrested 36 merchants who were charging more than the official government price, which is not enough, not even to cover the costs, So free enterprise and capitalism are like impossible over there. So it's pretty bad because of that, yeah. But so finding merchants is a challenge, and we actually need help. If you guys know anyone from Venezuela who is a merchant and can accept EOS or other currencies, because if he accepts other currencies, it's easier to teach about EOS, right?
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a situation where you almost have to go buy the goods that they want and then take the EOS to reimburse the person that bought the goods with the capital that they had. Like if there's any billionaires watching this, if they were to go down there and create a program where they bought goods and then took the equal amount in EOS to reimburse themselves, or anyone that's able to put up front capital to buy that, it's kind of what you have to do when you can't find merchants, is people that have enough to buy for and then be reimbursed in EOS through the UBI. Is that something that could work, or?
Yeah, it could. Let's start a store in Venezuela, right? To sell,
start your own store
and accept EOS. Yeah.
I think if there was a way that in this situation, it sounds like if the government is making you charge less than what the good is worth, and they're on purpose, starving out people, if there was a way that they could make money or benefit from adopting the UBI, then they might more likely adopt it. But it just sounds like the dictatorship is just not, is kind of starving situation out. And it's really sad. So that's another example, everyone that's watching, why URIs, you know, don't just think about yourself in URI, think about Venezuela and other countries that are facing the same thing, that literally have to flee their country just to be able to eat. And then
URI,
what you said,
if it works, sorry, but if it works, it's going to be the biggest, the most impactful program ever created in the world. It can possibly extinguish poverty from the world. And that's super awesome, isn't it?
yes,
totally
yes.
worth doing.
I agree. I think everybody agrees with that too. That's awesome. Like, and you're coming from a firsthand experience, seeing it and trying to create solutions using ideas and using EOS. And that's, this is kind of the real case study that people are like, well, where's a real case study? And this is one of them right now. It's really interesting. Thank you very much. Cool. There's more questions for you.
You're welcome.
Katie Broman, the magic question of the day. Everybody wants to know where they can donate EOS to this cause.
Oh, cool. Just transfer, give a name here, one basic income. So it will go to our account, and in the webpage, Family EOS, EOS.org, you can see a real-time tool to see who donated and how much. And we are also improving the accountability tools ongoing, you know?
And you said that you're working with EOS Venezuela, correct?
Yes.
So I think everybody should give them a round of applause, EOS Venezuela, because you always wonder, what are the BPs doing? And if they're not like the most known, like some of the top 21 or some of the people that are out there, they're actually on boots on the ground making a big difference with EOS. So everybody, please spread the word in Telegram groups how great EOS Venezuela is for this initiative, and helping them do familyeos.org. So that's really special. I appreciate that. Wait, June. And it's called Bonnum, right?
Yeah, Bonnum. The name comes from the Latin expression "commune bonum," which means common good.
Oh, awesome! Perfect. That's really awesome. Love it. And then Robert Russell mentioned it's a great idea, barter and trade. I'm guessing he's talking about going back to the basics of somebody that can supply the good to trade that, and then I guess because they're in a greater standing that they can afford to buy that up front and then be traded or reimbursed that. If you can't find merchants, that might be something else that you do. And I'd hate to get people singled out or in trouble, but there's always going to be underground movements. And I think when you find the people that you can align with, that there's always going to be something like the Underground Railroad for people worldwide, where people will step up and help and fight to protect people. So people, anybody thinks it's a group consciousness idea. Try not to take any of my own, but anybody have any more questions for Ed? I'm sure that people are going to have a lot of questions after they watch this, and I know that you're in the URI Telegram group, and I hope that you can stick around, because some people might want to volunteer to help you and team up with Venezuela to help do this movement with you, and help you guys make a real difference in the world. I think I don't know if Dan's heard of this, but I'm sure he'd be really proud. And tomorrow is Blockchain Live, so if you know the rumor of the announcement and all that, I guess we'll know what the announcement is, but maybe we're just a little step closer to seeing what the B1 wallet would look like, and that would definitely change all the conversations that we're having right now.
Yeah. You know, guys, one thing that we are looking forward is media opportunities. You know, so if you guys know any blogger or influencer who would like to write about us, that would be very helpful.
Okay. I know some people right offhand too, and I'm sure a lot of people would pop up that want to help push this out. And I would say the more the merrier. The more we write about this, the more we can get you into a bigger publication to talk about it. I don't know what the it's a tough area, guys, because it's a country under dictatorship, and it's a country that is a government that is showing signs of corruption, and whether, yes, TechCrunch, and whether we want to, you know, getting a big publication writing about that, whether that's going to attract a witch hunt or not. And I don't know if you know that phrase, but trying to find someone because they're guilty of something. We definitely don't want to create that scenario, but we do want to get the word out there to get enough support to keep doing the great works that you're doing, and push that forward.
Yeah, just one thing for the people inside Venezuela, which we feature in the website, we anonymize them. You know, we don't show their faces, we don't show their names, so to make sure that they are safe. You know.
And what about those that are coming into Brazil? I guess my one concern when you reached out to me, and just to be quite honest, is, and not because I'm not someone that likes to give, like obviously I have a real heart for this kind of stuff, but is the situation of people scamming people. And so when you reached out to me, I was like, oh, we need to look into this, but I definitely need to send it to my guys to look into it. Because I think the concern with BPs is to have their logo on something that turns out to be a scam. Because then in the end, that hurts their reputation, and they're not trying to be all about their reputation, but they do want to set a precedent that they can help navigate through the sea of what is true and what is something that could be misleading. So that, just to be honest, that's why I was like, I had to send this to my guys and let them look into it. But you know, you're asking for about 20 EOS for a family. You're in, like, let's think about this, guys. If it was a scam, it's 20 EOS. If you can't give 20 EOS, that's one family. If you can give like a few EOS, you did goodwill, and in turn, like that energy of you giving is going to come back to you, whether it's a scam or not, right? And I'm not saying this is a scam at all. I'm just saying, think about it like realistically. Like even if it's just 5 EOS, 2, 3, or a bunch, whatever you can donate, or whatever you feel comfortable donating, it's still, the act of giving is still honorable, and it still comes back to you. So if you're concerned about that too, just maybe don't give as much, or you do more detailed into that, or we connect with EOS Venezuela and let them vouch for reputation. And that's something that we've all been talking about, is reputation scores. So like maybe we all reach out to EOS Venezuela, validate the information, and then eventually I would love for them to do maybe a documentary on what you're doing or something, even if you have to blur out people, but to hear their voice, even if it is censored in a way to protect them. I think that's the main thing that keeps people from giving to the fullest extent that they really want to give. So like that would be my suggestion too, is as we navigate through these waters, we try to figure out what is a scam, what's not. And it's not fair that it has to be that way, but it's just the kind of, you know, it's crypto and blockchain. So so we have to deal with.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. This is a great suggestion. I would ask the guys at EOS Venezuela for help with that. You know? Yeah,
I mean, even if, because I used to do film production, even if you just like censor out their voices and you have a social validation of someone that can be held accountable in EOS, like the BP of Venezuela, then that that social proof helps people feel at ease to give more than what they would give if they felt uneasy.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll be donating either way, so it's okay. I believe in karma, man, so it's okay. Cool. Does anyone else have any questions for Ed of Bonnum, or the work he's doing with EOS Venezuela and helping families in Venezuela that are literally starving and migrating out of Venezuela to Brazil? If you just tuned in, he's offered a solution in which you donate EOS and they trade in EOS, and they have created a paper wallet for those families so they can continue to try to survive.
Yeah, we distribute $1 per day for each family, you know, for 90 days.
So it's not too bad. That's actually cool. It would be great if you could have metrics on that, on how many families you were able to help, and then what the outcome was, because then we would be getting the real case situation with analytics to maybe get more people wanting to volunteer for the URI as an experiment.
That's a great suggestion.
So Robert Russell said, I don't know how many EOS I have, but maybe someone can help me so I can donate at least 30 minimum token. Cool. So Robert's asking for help to be able to donate to you. And this is from Elam. Ed, we all see articles of how crypto adoption is booming in Venezuela. Is this really true, or is it just fake news hype? Good question.
Well, yeah, I think it's true. Yeah, some cryptocurrencies are the user adoption is growing. For example, Dash and Bitcoin Cash. In EOS, there is one little difficulty, and I think we have to address this as a community, is that there is a cost to create an account, right? That can be, right now is around $1, but for a Venezuelan who, whose minimum salary is $2, the equivalent to $2, can be a lot. Yeah. So I think if the community finds a way to create EOS accounts to make the creation free or cheaper, that would be great. And by answering your question, Ellen, I think Bitcoin Cash and Dash are the ones that are more developed there. And every day I hear of new initiatives and new places accepting cryptocurrencies as payment.
Cool. I have a suggestion on that too. Maybe there is another arm in which they donate money to fund the account creation. So maybe you can also open donations to getting the account creations. Like if you have a certain amount of families you're trying to cover, then you know what your numbers are of how much you need to donate to create those accounts for the time being.
Well, when we ask for $20 EOS per family, the cost of account creation is included on that, you know?
Okay, cool.
But for the Venezuelans in general, I think for them to adopt the EOS as a currency, the cost of creating the account is a barrier.
And then okay, so Elam said Dash did it through basically a WPF. With URI, we get rid of the WPF. So Elam, please extend on Worker Proposal Fund. Is this what you're saying? Or what are the acronyms so we can explain that? They got adoption. Basically, Dash did this because they got adoption.
But I think Ellen means that they were able to finance the adoption because of a system similar to the Worker Proposal Fund, right? Ellen?
Yeah. And that's how. So, and that's a good point on going back to why we, as people that are coming for, like, this is about Worker Proposal and URI, and it happened to turn into a URI session right now, why it's important to consider Worker Proposal system is still important. And that's why those people voted for both. And I think that Dan votes for both and hoping that it can have a better turnout than what happened with BitShares, and because he sees that it works on other systems and that it is helpful. And plus, it would be really cool to be able to have worker proposals for people to do the work that they love and benefit EOS. So always remember that we're not against each other. Ed, have you thought of a Worker Proposal Fund proposal as opposed to a URI?
Do you mean to finance basic income through a worker proposal instead of? I see. Well, I think a worker proposal fund initiative to finance the adoption would be interesting. And that's perhaps a way to coexist, right? We can have worker proposal fund and URI. But I think if we do adopt URI and it's like one of the main articles in the EOS constitution, I think it will be better for mankind in general, you know, because like it can be so impactful. It can really change the world if URI, as Dan's envision, really happen. You know, but
Do
I
you
think.
see that? Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
No, go ahead, Ed.
Okay. But I think that we as a community, we can do both, right? Perhaps 2% for URI, 2% for worker proposal, or a different proportion. So you
That's
were
interesting.
asking? Mhm.
That's interesting. So anyone here from EOS Math, dig into those numbers. And as some people are
Mhm.
obsessed with doing the numbers, like that'd be interesting to see how that turns out if we were able to split 2% for each one, one being URI and one being worker proposal system, which would actually sever the honeypot fear in half, and the other half would be just sheer generosity and sharing, and one half would be proposals that are worth getting that money being passed and doing work to continue to get that. What I'm getting from what you're saying is that you see URI is more impactful because of the motivation behind it. Is that what you think?
No, not only because of the motivation, but because, for example, $1 per day for people in the developed economies, or even for me in Brazil, is not much. But for in the countries which are most affected by poverty and famine, it can really change people's lives, you know, and create a domestic market with purchasing power, and it can really empower people. And another environment which it can be very useful is for refugees, you know. So,
Yeah.
for example, today there are 80 million refugees in the world. Imagine if each one of them had $1 or $2 per day in income. Then the countries will be like bidding for them, right? Because they wouldn't be a burden for them anymore, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's so true. I never thought about that. And I guess also with the limitations of not necessarily all worker proposals, but in this worker proposal, or this case of a worker proposal, would be that you would be putting up a projection of how much you would need. You would be limiting to what you could do overall, because then if that was a proposal, then you would get what you proposed, and in that case you can ask for more and more, and you would be asking and validating for more. Or if it was just a situation of a URI, it would be something that's already thought out for the long run without as much resistance to those hurdles, in which those hurdles are good and they're there for a reason in worker proposal system. It's so people won't game the system and they can validate that they're doing what they say they're going to do. So it is a good, those are really good steps for the worker proposal system. But it could also be limiting when it comes to situations where people might end up needing more, or you might end up helping more than you initially thought you could help. And in that case, it might slow down the process as compared to something like what they're doing with the UBI, or with a URI that's already pre-planned for everyone to get a certain amount, and everybody has that, instead of just who you can help with what, I guess I'm trying to say. So any other questions for Ed? Or I see we have 15 people in here, which is really cool. I really wish that it could be a meeting that we could all say something. So do know that your questions asked are you saying something, and we will read every question that is asked, because we want to address them. We have a great group of people in here. I'm excited. Oh, great discussion. Elon, that's good to know. You never know when you're like the only person talking. If you're talking too much, you're annoying people. So you just try to be fair. I think let's get to some meat of it is what are the limitations of URI? What are people's fears of URI? If anybody in here has any questions or concerns, like let's get those out so we can write them down and think about them. What are some concerns that you might have, Ed?
Well, something that people mention a lot is people will just dump the EOS token, you know, and the value will depreciate a lot. And I think it wouldn't really happen like that, because if there is, for example, a market in different countries, EOS can become the de facto currency in many places, you know. So it might increase user adoption and increase the price in general. So the price, dumping the price, I think it won't really happen.
Okay, cool. So you have a concern, but you kind of don't think it's really a concern at this point.
Yes.
Yes. Just to be clear, there are legitimate concerns with anything new, and everybody has a voice and opinion on that, and we would all love to hear that. So like, please don't take away from this that we're all just pro URI. We're all students of URI, and we're really interested in it, and we're trying to push it forward to get better understanding of it. And so if you do have like really, really hard questions you want to ask, please ask them in the URI group. And if anyone is rude and for asking that, let an admin know, because that's not what the place is about. The space is about trying to figure out what people's concerns are and trying to find solutions or answers or rethinking the situation. And then, thanks, Kevin. And thanks, June. And we're being told to wrap it up soon because it's been an hour. But Elam has some burning desires. Anyone else that has burning desire questions, please ask them. We'd love to think about them. This is a meeting of the minds, not any way trying to point fingers at anyone or trip anyone up. We're just trying to figure out what the possibilities are and what the limitations could be. So Elam has said, who will build all the things worker proposal system can fund? And from my understanding, worker proposal system, and this is from an earlier on understanding, and that there's been many conversations in that group, and it is a really intelligent group in there, is that pretty much anybody that can write a legitimate proposal that makes sense can write a proposal. And whether your proposal aligns with things that other people believe EOS needs or is needed, that you can vote on that, and it can pass. And then within that, you are creating your own milestones and stuff within the system that has been laid out in the proposal to safeguard that and to double check that you're on point with your goals and that the money is being well spent. So and anybody can propose a worker proposal. Whether it gets passed or not is the key to that. And then if we go the URI route, so for the URI route, it would be a volunteer-based situation where you volunteer that you want to be a part of URI, and within that the percentage and so he's within his talks, or within Daniel's write-ups on it, there is metaphors to physical property and how it relates to what we know is the system and works out for the 5% inflation. I also feel like that the inflation percent is equal to that which is in the worker proposal fund. So whether this was created to replace the idea of burning all the worker proposal savings, I am unsure, but I know that Dan's also mentioned that both would be good. So we don't want to necessarily just decide that that's exactly what he's trying to do. I think that he's trying to figure out what we're going to do. As far as the URI route, it would be volunteer. You would have to volunteer to be a part of that. And the rumor is that you can, if you do not need it, you can donate it back. And if you're, I guess if your stake is higher and you're donating back, that he was speaking about having incentives that are much like kind of a tax write-off, or where you get incentivized for donating. So because you know, that's how you get most big companies to donate, right? They get the tax write-off for nonprofit donations every year. I mean, that's how we would sell programs, was like, come on, donate, and guess what? We have paperwork for you so you can write it off, and we would get all kinds of donations that way. So we know it works, but I think that's part of it. And then also Dan had mentioned thinking about a nonprofit for his URI idea. So that's another thing to be thinking of. And then Evan showed up. Hello, but June said, hey, we're wrapping it up soon. So I guess that wraps it up. Any burning desires, please share and then join us. And thank you. Everyone's saying great job, Ed. You did a great job. We're really happy you could be here. You made this a way better a way better talk than I anticipated. It's kind of nervous, but I thought I was going to be on my own, and I'm so glad I'm not. We have really great people working on trying to change the world. Ed's one of them, and trying to change situations like what's happening in Venezuela. And I think that we can learn a lot from people taking initiative and boots on the ground, and try to understand how maybe we can use worker proposal system and URI to change the world. Whatever we can work out that works. I challenge everyone to go into the worker proposal group Telegram and talk to those guys and pick their brains and get an in-depth conversation with them. I challenge you, if you're into URI, to go into the URI group. They're only separated because they're different subjects, not because they are apart from each other. But go into the URI group and talk to people in URI. If you're into numbers, you're a number file, go into EOS Math, and they're crunching numbers in there. And then also great, if you want to keep up with these, stay in touch with the Alliance Telegram group, because the Alliance Telegram group is organizing all these community initiatives together and publishing them weekly and publishing updates on them, so you can keep up with what's going on. And Elam said also go play EOS Pixel Master. So everyone go play the really awesome game released by EOS Asia. It's super fun. And you know what? Support Steph. He's going broke defending. Okay, so they're trying to defend their pictures in there. I also want to suggest no more PINIS pictures, fellas. Please. We're trying to be creative here. But anyway, it's a little look into how we like to have fun as a community in EOS. Thank you, Ed. I really appreciate it. And thank everybody for tuning in. We'll have another one next week, and we'll see you in Telegram and on the chain. So thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you too. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.